Data lookups. Data lookup is quite simply the process where values in Excel are scanned until certain results are found. In Excel 2013, there are two main formulas for looking up the data you have in a worksheet. There is VLOOKUP, where V stands for vertical, and there is HLOOKUP, where the H stands for horizontal. In this lesson, we'll learn about data lookups. The basic VLOOKUP formula is shown here. Inside the brackets, you'll see the information that Excel asks us to enter into the formula. You can also go to the Formulas tab, click on Lookup and Reference, and then select VLOOKUP. You'll then see this dialog box. The benefit of using the dialog box when entering a formula is the bit of instruction that Excel gives you for each field. If you're newer to Excel, it's recommended that you use the Function Arguments dialog box to create your formulas. It's a lot less trial and error that way. For the time being, however, let's look at the formula in our worksheet again. The lookup value is the value that we want to look up. The table array is the table where the data will be retrieved. This value can be a range or the name of a range. The col index num is the column number in the table. The first column in your table is 1. Range lookup is typically true or false. True will give you a near match. If you want to find an exact match, it's false. Let's learn how to use the VLOOKUP formula. Take a look at our worksheet here. On the left, we have birthdays listed. We know that 12 means December, and we could use the month function to fill in December for us, but instead we want the text value. On the right, we've created a lookup table. We're going to use a VLOOKUP to find the text value. We start by entering VLOOKUP and then open brackets. The first piece of information we must supply is the lookup value. We know the lookup value is the month located in column A, which is the first column, but we must use a month function to specify this. As you can see here. Next we add a comma. Then for the table array, we're going to highlight the cells in the table. However, we don't highlight the column headers. Then we enter another comma. Now for the col index num. Ours is column 2 because the value that we want to return is in the second column of our highlighted cells here. Then we enter another comma. Since we want an exact match, we enter false. Now we close the brackets and press enter. You can see this formula has returned December. A lookup table is created simply by creating a table in Excel. It's used as a master list of sorts, and you'll use it to locate data that you need to find using search criteria that you will enter in your lookup formula. You can use a huge table of data that you've created as your lookup table. You do not have to create a lookup table just to use either VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP functions. For example, let's say you have a table with a spreadsheet that contains 15,000 customer names, complete with address, billing information, shipping information, anniversary dates, and so on. You can use a lookup function to find specific data within your table. If you want to find the address, for example, you could create a lookup formula to find that within your table of data. If you're looking up data that may be on different worksheets within a workbook, it makes it easier if you name the data you're going to be searching. This is easy to do. Go to the lookup table data, which we've created here. Click anywhere in the data and press Ctrl A. This selects all of the data. Next, go to the Formulas tab. Click the Define Name button in the Define Names group. Enter a name for the group. The scope is Workbook, and then click OK. Now, when you enter the table array information into your data lookup, you can simply enter this name. In our case, it's Products. You'll see it appear in a drop-down menu. Also note that if you add data to the end of a lookup table after you've named it, then enter the name of the data into Excel, the formula will not retrieve that data because it's not included as part of the named data. Let's enter a new product into this list. Now we go back to the name box, which is on the top left here, and then choose Products. As you can see, the last row is not included. If you add rows or columns to a lookup table after you've named it, insert the data into the existing table. Do not put it at the very beginning or the very end. Otherwise you'll have to rename it and then change your lookup formula. Let's try and insert a row into the middle of the data. Now we can select our product's name range again. As you can see, the new product we entered is in our data. However, you can always add extra blank rows in your lookup table so that you have room to add new things at the end. It's important that you understand exactly how VLOOKUP works. For that reason, we're going to show a more realistic example. Here we have an Excel invoice. This is just one of the pre-built templates that we're going to use. We also have the product list in another worksheet. We're going to use the VLOOKUP to find the product ID and the price per unit for our invoice. Take a look at our invoice again. Let's change the headings to product and product ID. Then let's enter Boston crab meat as the first item. Now we're going to use VLOOKUP to find the product ID. Enter VLOOKUP into this cell here. The first parameter is the product name. Now instead of selecting our table of values, we want to enter in our products list. As you can see, it's come up in the list here. After that, we enter the value of 2 and then false. As you can see, it's found the product ID of 40 for the Boston crab meat. Now let's do price. We can do the same thing with VLOOKUP. First of all, we enter the product name, then products. Now as you fill in our formula, notice that when we get to table array and type in the name for our data, it appears in the drop-down list. Enter in the value of 4 for the price, and then false again. You can see the price has appeared into this row. Whereas VLOOKUP is a vertical lookup, HLOOKUP is the horizontal lookup. However, in vertical or horizontal lookups do not refer to the table in which you want to place the results. Instead, it refers to the table in which you're using to search for data. When you're using the HLOOKUP function, you're looking for data horizontally. In VLOOKUP, we searched in a column for data. Columns are vertical. In HLOOKUP, you search for rows. Instead of entering the column number, you'll enter the row number. Let's talk about range lookup in the VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP formulas. As we've already learned, if you enter false as the range lookup, Excel will return the exact match for the results. However, if you use the true argument for a lookup, it will use the nearest match that is of the next largest value if an exact match is not found. For our lookup table, we have our grading scale here. We're going to use VLOOKUP to input the letter grade. Let's enter in some data for students and scores. We're going to use VLOOKUP to input the letter grade. Our first cell is our score that we want to look up. A second is the range. Third is the value of 2 because we want to get the result column here. And fourth, we want to enter the value of true. Now press enter. Let's change this formula to use a named range for this score and result table. To do this, go to the Formulas tab and click on Define Name. We can use the name of scores. Now in our formula for VLOOKUP, we change our range here to use the word scores. Now we can click and drag on the bottom right of the cell to copy that to all of the students here. As you can see, it looks up their letter grade correctly. If you use VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP and Excel cannot find the data you're looking for, you'll see a message appear in the cell after you enter the results. You'll see a #NA error. What you'll want to do if you see this message is to run an if statement to make sure the data really isn't there. Let's use our invoice and product list as an example. In our invoice here, let's enter a product that we know doesn't exist in our product list. Now let's copy the formula from the cell above. As we already knew would happen, Excel can't find the results. To make sure the lookup is correct, we're going to modify our formula so that we can run an if statement. To start with, let's type the if after the equals sign. and then enter an opening bracket, and then typed is NA. We also added a closing bracket to close the if statement of our VLOOKUP. As you can see, our VLOOKUP's formula sits inside the is NA formula. If the result really is NA, we want Excel to give us 0 as a result because there isn't a product number. If there is a value, we want to do a VLOOKUP again, so we copy and paste the VLOOKUP in place after placing another comma. Now we can close the brackets and press enter. As you can see, we then get a 0 because the data is indeed missing. You can nest a lookup within a lookup to go through multiple tables and pull out a value. Let's take a look at another worksheet to see this in action. You can nest a lookup within a lookup to go through multiple tables and pull out a value. For example, in this worksheet, we have a list of employees with the years that they've worked for our fictional company. We want to use our lookup tables to determine the hourly rate of pay. That said, our fictional company determines an employee's hourly pay by their job classification, then the number of years they've been on the job. We have two tables for that. The first one is called class. As you can see, this table lists the various job positions in the company, then lists the classification for each position. Our second table here is called salary. This table lists the different classifications and then the hourly rate of pay for those classifications based on the number of years the employee has been on the job. To figure out the hourly rate for our worksheet, we'll use nested VLOOKUPs. Let's start out by using VLOOKUP to find the job classification for the first employee in our list. As you can see, it's found executive. Now let's nest this VLOOKUP inside another VLOOKUP. To do this, we'll need to put the cursor after the equal sign in our formula, then type VLOOKUP again, followed by the opening bracket. Put a comma after the closing bracket, then enter the table array for the new VLOOKUP, which is salary. Then the column number, which is 3, then false for an exact match. Our formula should now show the hourly rate for the employee. If we consult with the tables, we can see that the $50 is indeed the hourly rate for a CEO who's been with the company for 2 years. Now we can figure out the hourly rate for the rest of the employees.